Okay, so again, the purpose of today's call here is to walk through the board member portal in Spectrum, and we'll be showing both the board member portal and on the Spectrum web portal, and also some of the corresponding functions behind the scenes in GE that are used to configure the board member functionality. So as you can see, I've logged in with an administrative account that has access to all of the roles here. This is not what your users are typically going to see. When your board members log in, they'll just see the board member portal. Unless they're also a donor, they may see the donor portal as well. But on the board member portal, they've got a home page, which is what we're looking at right now, and then they've got access to their dockets and also to their reports. So just like all of the other web portals that we've got here in Spectrum, each role has the opportunity to see reports that are delivered through them. These are SQL Server Reporting Services reports. They're configured and loaded into GE, and for each report in GE, you can flag it as being available online and choose the role to which you wish to grant access so that board members can see reports if you so desire. So those are SQL Server Reporting Services reports. I don't have any configured here, but if I did, they would be available here on this reports menu. But let's start out by looking at this landing page. The first pane up here in the top left is customizable text. You guys can put whatever you want here, and you can change it from time to time if you want to put announcements for the board members, that sort of thing. We have just some sample text in here that welcomes the board member. That's at the top left. At the top right is a list of their most recently accessed dockets. These are dockets that have been assigned to them for processing. This isn't the full list of their dockets. This is just a handful. I think there may be a maximum of 5 dockets that we show in this list. If you want to go to the full list of dockets that have been given to you, you can click on this link. It'll take you there, or again, from the board member portal homepage here, you can go to the dockets menu. So let's take a look at the docket screen. Here they can see the dockets that have been assigned to them for approval. And I guess before we dive into the dockets here, we probably ought to talk about what a docket is, how they're configured in GE. So I'm going to real quickly switch gears and pull up GE. We'll go to the batch screen and take a look at a docket. A docket is similar to a check run. It's basically just a collection of grant payments. The purpose of a docket is to get grant payments in front of board members so that they can be approved. So I have 3 dockets defined here, but I've only turned one of them on the web. So I'll pull this one up and show you how I've done that. I've added the appropriate payments to the docket. This one's only got 5 payments. And on this approval tab, I have checked this box that says that this docket requires board member approval. By default, this is turned off. But if you do batch up payments and put them on a docket and you require board member approval on that docket, and essentially what it means is as you go to do your check run, your financial processing, it's not going to create invoices in the finance system until these until each payment has been approved, either by the single board member that's been assigned or by the quorum of the committee that's been assigned. So we'll talk about that in a second here. You can choose whether you want a single board member to approve or whether you want a committee of board members to approve. And board members are essentially those Spectrum web users that have a role defined as a board member. So they can either register online as a board member and you can grant them that approval, or through their constituent screen in GE, you can go to the web users tab and grant them that role. Set up a web user account for them so they don't have to register, and grant them the role of board member. So the list of all available board members in my sample data here, I've only got a couple of board members defined, but these are the 2. I could say this docket is just for one particular board member, or I could say it's for a committee. And this is a list of the committees that I've defined. I've just got one sample committee. But committees are configured here in this Add Edit link. I'll pull this up real quick. On the right, we have all the available board members. And on the left, we have a list of committees. And I can set up a new committee. And I'll call it Demo Committee. I'll make it active. And then I'll assign Mark to that committee. So as I switch committees, you'll notice the checkboxes get updated here to tell which committee members are in which committees. So here's where you administer your committees. And again, if you don't have the board members listed here that you think you should, go to their GE constituent records and make sure that their web user tab has that board member role approved for them. So this is where you define your committees. I'm going to say this one is assigned to the main committee. And I'm going to say that the quorum required for approval is 2. Now, for just 2 committee members, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you have 4 or 5 board members on a committee, you may not want to consider your grant approved until you have a certain number of votes received, a certain number of approvals received, rather. So this essentially says that once we get 2 committee members approving each grant that's on this docket, then that grant is considered to be approved. Here we can see the status of the submissions. We can see that for the main committee, these are the 2 committee members, and neither one of these committee members has filled out their docket approval. They have not submitted their docket approval. If they do have one submitted, then they'll get a submit date, and that'll tell when it came in. And every time a docket approval is submitted online by a board member, we check the quorum against the total number of submissions received. And once we reach that approval for every grant on the docket, then we mark the docket as approved. And you'll notice this read-only field for the date approved. That gets set when that occurs. So we check each time a submission comes in to see if the full docket has been approved. It's possible for the board member to approve 9 out of the 10 grants on a docket, for example, and either decline one or abstain from one because of conflict of interest, et cetera. So in that scenario, if you only had 9 out of 10 approved, then that wouldn't be considered a full approval for every grant on the docket. These reporting fields are extraneous and left over from other processing. So these are essentially all the fields we've got to worry about on configuring a docket. And again, the other 2 dockets I've got defined here, I do not have this board member approval required turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and go back to go back to the Spectrum portal and take a look at this docket that had been assigned to this reviewer. I've logged in as Mark. Before I drill into it, I just want to make a note here about this list of dockets. It's only got 1 item here, but if there are multiple items, you can filter them. You can set the number per page. It's got pagings if you have 100 dockets to go through. They can filter out just the ones that have been submitted or just the ones that are pending. They can take a look at the ones where the docket status is approved or completed or new. And then they can search through the name of the docket as well if they know the date or whatever your docket naming convention is. They can search by that as well. There's a print function as well that brings up a printable screen that shows them a list of all their dockets. There's also a print function here on the docket record itself. So just like most of the other grids on the Spectrum web portal, these column headers are for sorting. So you can click on these and it will sort by the number of grants or by the date sent or by the amount, et cetera. So let's jump in and take a look at the docket that's been assigned to me. And it gives me a few things here. It gives me sort of a summary of the docket itself, its ID, its number of payments. My submission is still pending. I haven't submitted this yet. There's a docket description, a docket status, and a total amount. So there's total $4,300 on this docket. My submit date is blank because I haven't submitted it yet. So now I go through these grants one at a time and I approve them. I can approve, I can decline, I can say we should not give this grant, or I can abstain. If I approve, then I don't have to enter in a comment, but if I decline or I abstain, then that comment field becomes required. I may need to say that I've got a conflict of interest or I'm on the board of this particular organization or something along those lines.
Our board doesn't really operate that way, approving them one by one. Is there an option for them to approve the whole docket as well?
There certainly is. We can do approve all right here, and that just marks all of these. Do you want to mark them all as approved? If you have added comments, you should save them first, and then we can go ahead and just approve them all. Notice it still hasn't submitted. The status is still pending, but they've approved them all, and they can still go in and add comments one at a time for each of these for each of these individual payments on this docket. So just for test purposes here, I'll add a couple of comments. And then when I'm ready, I can submit. I'll go ahead and submit this docket. And you'll notice the status has now gone to submitted, and the submit date was set to today's date. This print function will bring up a printer-friendly version that doesn't have all the images in it, but it shows that my approval status, and then the comments that I've made, and then all the relevant grant information for each payment that I can print. I'm going to close that browser window and come back here. Let's go back to GE and take a look at the docket now. Since that has been submitted, I'm going to jump over to this approval tab. And now we have one submitted approval application, and the other one is still pending. But I can double click on this and pull up this docket approval submission screen where I can take a look and see for each grant on this docket, for each payment on this docket rather, what was the status and what were the comments that were made for each one. So this information is available now here on the docket screen in GE. And because we have set this quorum required for approval to 2, we could still not create invoices in the Financial Edge, in the finance system for the payments that are on this docket until we get a second set of approvals. So that's an overview of how it works. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, and we'll open it up for questions. Bear with me just a second.